Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Long Beach Unified Parent University workshop this afternoon. And today's workshop topic is spring into self-care. So parents, family members, just for being here, you're already taking that first step into a little bit of self-care for yourself. So we thank you that you're here. We thank you for taking the time today to be with us. And if you're watching this later, if you're watching the YouTube link later, we thank you for doing that. And we thank you for taking the time to join our Parent University workshop. Today, we have with us some counselors and school psychologists from our family resource centers. And I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm going to spring right into it and get this workshop started. So again, parents, thanks for being here. If you have questions, we'll be answering questions at the end of the workshop. There is a link down below. So if you look at our YouTube link, if you go down below, there is some resources there. And there's also a link for you to ask some questions. So if you have questions, we will get to those at the end. So please feel free to, participate in that way by jotting down your name and some questions down there. Resources are there as well. They have provided us some great handouts, some tools. All of those resources are down below. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our Family Resource Center team and learn some self-care. So thanks again for being here.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. And I got to say thank you, parents, for being here. I think this is a really cool thing that, you've had a really busy day already, but yet here you are. And I'm so happy that you've joined us. The challenges of the pandemic have required flexibility and adaptability from everyone. We've all had changes in routines, had to make changes in our behavior. And now that schools are reopening, well, now we have new challenges that we're facing, leading to stress and anxiety for many. And so tonight we're focusing on self-care. I don't know that I see the slide up.
Do we need to screen share?
Yeah, I don't see the slide. Is the slide up?
I don't think anybody's quite screen sharing just yet.
Okay, well, let's screen
so
share.
We'll screen share and we'll get that there.
Okay, great.
This Zoom world we're living in, right?
Yeah.
We'll get it.
And there you go. Talking about being flexible and being adaptive. Here we are doing just that.
Teresa, are you going to screen share or is it you, Miss Cho?
Teresa, would you be able to share a screen?
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, I want to make sure all the parents get to see the really cool title slide. We spent a lot of time creating that. So on the next slide, well, let me just go ahead and introduce ourselves. So my name's Tom Sopp. I'm a school psychologist with the Long Beach Unified School District. And with me presenting tonight, I have Teresa Mora, who's a school counselor. And we also have Yoonji Cho, who's a school counselor as well. And so we're from the Family Resource Centers. And so in Long Beach Unified, the Family Resource Centers serve 27 schools. And what we do is the services we provide to students are that we provide individual and group counseling. And what the cool thing is that because we're district employees, we're hired by the district, we can serve all students. It doesn't matter whether they're general education, special education, their insurance doesn't matter. We can seriously serve all students, and that's really neat. We also serve parents, and what we do is we connect parents to community resources. As you can imagine, with the pandemic, a lot of parents aren't working as many hours as they were, although that's now changing as people are becoming vaccinated. And so we've had a lot of questions from families about, food pantries and other resources. And so that's what I mean by connecting families to resources. The other thing that we do is we provide trainings to parents. And so, like, for example, tonight, we also provide services to school staff. We can go into a classroom and provide a social emotional learning sort of lesson. We provide professional development to school staff. We're also involved in program creation. And so an example of that would be at the Nelson Academy. We started lunch bunches. And so a lunch bunch is when, students can meet through Zoom over lunch just to connect and be with other kids and kind of have some fun time to kind of get them re-engaged with each other and school. And so the way we get referrals is that staff, parents, and students can make referrals to us. And what we do is we work with students who show behaviors related to depression, anxiety, and trauma. And we work with students who display disruptive behavior. And so the way referrals are made to us, in fact, if you're a parent with a student at one of the 27 schools that we serve, you can make a referral yourself. And the way that you would do that is that you would go to the Long Beach Unified School District website. At the top, you'll see an alpha index, and you locate the letter F, and then you click on F, and what will happen is that the screen will scroll down, and then you locate Family Resource Centers. You click on that, and then you'll see another screen, and on that screen, you'll see that there's a place for parents to make referrals to us. And you'll see that the referrals are available in English, Spanish, and Khmer. Khmer. And so just remember, though, your student needs to be enrolled in one of the 27 schools. And on that same page, you'll see all the schools that we serve. And so that's enough about us. Next, I would like to tell you about how you can participate in the workshop tonight. And so besides listening and thinking about what's being said, there are 4 ways you can participate tonight. The first way is through self-reflection. And when I say self-reflection, what that means is we're going to be asking you questions for you to answer to yourself. I mean, you can answer those out loud to yourself. You can write down the answer. You can answer them in your mind. But these are questions just for you to answer to yourself. The second way you can participate tonight is that we'll ask you to, we'll be asking to survey yourself. In other words, we're going to ask you to rate yourself on a scale. And we'll kind of tell you the scale so you'll kind of see what I mean. So there'll be some times that we'll ask you to kind of poll yourself. The third way is we're going to be asking you to write or to draw. And so if you don't have a piece of paper right now, I would hope that you would get, not a Post-it note, but maybe like a 8.5 by 11 size piece of paper, notebook paper, or scratch paper around the house. Make sure you have a pencil or a pen. Or if you really want to be fun and engage in the activity, if you have paper plates, it'd really be fun to have a paper plate. But I know not everybody might have that. So that's why a piece of paper will work just fine. The other thing you can do too is we have the self-care wheel in the resource guide. If you can print that out to have that accessible during the presentation tonight, that would be really nice too. The last is, as I already mentioned, at the end of the presentation, there'll be time for us to answer questions. So, please, of course, feel free to ask questions in the Google folder. And so we're going to start with our first activity. So we're going to ask you to participate right off the bat. And this is a survey we want you to do for yourself. And so on the right of your screen, you see a thermometer. And on the thermometer, there's numbers 1 to 6. 1 represents, positive feelings. The other end of the continuum, a 6 represents negative feelings. And so a 1, if you score yourself a 1, that means you're feeling excited. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about yourself, check in with yourself. How are you feeling right now? If you score yourself a 1, that means you're excited to be here. You've had a great day. Things are falling into place. You're really excited to be a part of this webinar right now. If you score yourself a 2, that means you're doing good. You had your coffee this morning. The caffeine still kicked in. You're still holding on. It's still holding over, and you're feeling good. A 3 means, you're just okay. You've had some bumps in the road today, but you've kind of managed to get through. A 4 means, you're really not in the mood. You've had some big bumps in the road today, and maybe you really don't feel like being here, but you're here because the topic is really important to you and it's interesting to you. If you score yourself a 5, that means you're overwhelmed. It's been a very stressful day and you're not sure what to do. 6 is just no comment. In other words, this has been really a no good day. It's best not to say anything at all, in front of the kids. You don't want them to hear anything unpleasant. And so score yourself on a scale of 1 to 6. Score yourself now. What number represents how you're feeling right now? Great. Thank you for doing that. Now, here's the second part. What happened today that you feel the way that you do? What happened? What have been some of the thoughts that you've had about the day? Answer that for yourself right now. Either in your mind, you can say it out loud, or you can write it on a piece of paper. Well, this is the first skill that we're going to teach you tonight. So it's only been a couple minutes and already we're teaching you a skill. The skill is the importance of checking in with yourself. It's important that we monitor how we're feeling so that we can take care of ourselves. When we start to kind of get, the pot's beginning to steam a little bit and the water beginning to boil, so that we can stop it so that we don't get to the point of out of control. Now, this has been our first activity, and because you guys did so well, I feel a need to give you something, to reward you in some way. And, it's kind of hard to decide what that would be because, some people, like dogs and think dogs are cute. Some people like cats, but I think everybody can agree, or everybody can like baby ducks. And so great job participating. And so I give you the March of the Baby Ducks. So thank you for already taking your first step in the webinar tonight. So now let's talk about takeaways. So you can see the picture on your screen right now. The main point is this: put the mask on yourself first. So if you look at the picture, you see that there's a dad on an airplane, and he has this oxygen mask on himself. The next thing he's doing, he's putting the oxygen mask on his kid. And I think that kind of illustrates what we're trying to say tonight. Airbus tells us that if the airplane's flying at 40,000 feet and they lose cabin pressure, people only have 18 seconds of consciousness to take measures, to take care of themselves. And I think that's true in real life. As we go out through the day, sometimes, our emotional gas tank loses cabin pressure, right? To the point where if we don't take care of ourselves first, we can come home grumpy and unpleasant and say things we wish we hadn't. And so, perhaps you're thinking, well, what are the presenters going to add to my plate? What are things they're going to have me do that maybe I don't really want to do, I don't have time to do? Well, let me just say, taking care of yourself is the plate. It's the first thing. Only when you take care of yourself can you really then take care of others. And so that's kind of the number one is we want you to feel good, because when you feel good, then you can do good. And so our goal tonight is that you're going to leave the workshop feeling good, or at least better than when you first came. And so if you rated yourself like a 5 tonight, things really, it hasn't been a good day, we hope you come away feeling at least, maybe a 3 or a 2. Also, the second thing we want to happen is we want to give you some self-care ideas. And so we're going to kind of share a brainstorm of resources that are available for you to kind of to experiment with some new things, some creative things when it comes to self-care. The last thing is we want to give you permission just to take care of yourself. And so we're going to provide the time, the space, and support you by giving you the opportunity to create your own self-care plan. So that's what's on the agenda tonight. So, because we're transmitting this through YouTube, we can't show this video, which is really makes us sad because it's a really great video. It's from the TV comedy Blackish, and perhaps you've seen it, maybe you haven't. Media Services is going to put the link in the box so that you can, view it later. But in this TV show, it shows this family who has to make all these changes because of the pandemic. And, because of the pandemic, work has suffered, school has suffered for the kids. And so it's required several adjustments, changes within the family system. And this clip shows the family making the adjustments and now trying to get themselves back on track. And so the main characters are Dre, who is the husband, who you see here, and then his wife, Bo. And they have two kids who aren't in the picture. But in the clip here, it shows what Dre and Bo do to manage their anxiety. And so Bo, takes care of herself, and she knows she needs some downtime. And so she takes time just to kind of not to hear the noise, just to be by herself and with her thoughts. And then when one of her kids come to her and say, "Hey, Mom, I need you to do this or help me with that," she sets a really nice boundary. Say, "Hey, I need this time to get myself back on track. And so I can't help you right now with that." Then it goes back to Dre, who's been working really hard, getting everybody on track. And, he thinks he's just nailing it. Everything is running smooth. He's getting all these compliments. Things seem to be really falling in place, but he hasn't been scoring himself in terms of how's he feeling? What's the stress level? And so the scene kind of ends where they have food delivered to their house, and he's looking for, something that he ordered, something that was like soothing, a kind of a self-care sort of treat for himself. And wouldn't you know it, it's not there. And I don't want to spoil the ending. I'll give you a chance to see it and not tell you too much about it. But the bottom line is he has a meltdown. And that's kind of the point of this story, is that, in real life, sometimes if we don't check in with ourselves, we might direct that stress at family members or objects, or in this situation, Dre's treat. And so we've all kind of had a pandemic response to some point. And so now we'll go to the next slide, because, sometimes when it comes to managing our stress, we just wish we had a longer day, don't we? I mean, haven't you ever wished like you had a 36-hour day? I mean, if there was a 36-hour day, then I'd be able to check off everything on my to-do list, right? And some people, say, if I just had a longer day, well, then I'd have time to take care of me, I mean, but the truth is that even with a longer day, that wouldn't solve the problem. And so we're going to click here to now bring up on the screen the Parkinson principle. And what that means is that, as work expands, or I should say, as time expands, work will fill whatever time we have, right? So if we have more time, well, the work would just fill that time too. And so I humbly suggest to you that the problem isn't about time. It's not about a longer day, but it's more about how we balance priorities and the task that we have to do to get done in life. So in life, there's never going to be enough time to get everything done. And so we need to decide, what are the priorities? Where are we going to set the boundaries? And so the next slide shows what I mean about balancing priorities and the urgent. And so on the one hand, we have the things that are most important to us in life, right? On one side of the scale, we have the things that we value, like family, friends, and so on. These are the things that are most important in our life. They're the priorities, things we'll never give up on. But on the other end of the scale, we have the urgent things that sometimes yell for our attention. These are the things that what's on our to-do list and so on. And so when we set boundaries, then we can kind of keep things kind of balanced, and we lived a balanced life. But frequently those urgent things, they scream at us, they beg for our attention, and so we give them more weight. And let me just say, you're not alone. Often it's easy for me to rationalize my imbalanced life as, oh, this is just temporary, this is just for today, or this is just for this week. I mean, when the weekend comes, then I'll balance things again. Or, it'll be imbalanced only until the next break or until the end of the school year, and then, at that time, then I can, participate in things that I value and bring me joy. But, I don't know if you're like me, but then, I find myself just like end up spending my life completing the things that I perceive as just being really, really urgent, but not necessarily the things that I really, really value. And so how many weeks have flown by, or months, maybe even a year, before I realize, oh, I've just been taking care of the urgent things and given up on the things that are really the priorities of my life, like self-care. Part of the difficulty, too, is that the things that make us, wonderful people sometimes, or a wonderful parent, they kind of tip the balance in favor of the urgent. And let me show you what I mean by that. So the next slide is going to show you a dial. And so, imagine like, the dial for the car stereo. And so, if it's at a 0, you can't hear it. If it's at the 10, well, then now it's just blasting at me, and it hurts. And so this is the dynamic that's often at play. And so on one end, that's blasting, it's the urgent things that beg for our attention. They scream, you have not done enough. You're not good enough. You have not sacrificed enough. You have to put other people way ahead of yourself and can't take time for yourself. Those things scream at us, right? And the beautiful things about us, like, are why, the things of priority, the things that we value, those high standards, self-care, those kind of get lost. And so here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about yourself. When you think about the level of stress and anxiety and these thoughts that are yelling at you, how high are they on the car radio, you might say, in your life? Is it at a 7, 8, 9, or 10? Are they blasting? Is it hurting your ears at this point? And if so, what number would you give that? And then because, you have these important priorities, what do you need to dial those down to that you can find that sweet spot of balance so you can take care of the things that are most important to you? Answer that for yourself. Are you a 9, but you want to turn it down to a 5? Are you at a 7 and want to turn it down to a 3? You don't want to turn it down to a 0 because, if you don't have any stress in your life or any anxiety, well, then we become sloppy, right? We don't take care of anything. And so there's got to be a balance that we need to find. So what would be your balance? What number do you want to dial down to? Answer that to yourself. Thank you for rating yourself again. I feel a need to show my appreciation to you because you're working so hard right now. And so I give you baby bunnies. I don't know about you, but I think the bunny with the little hat, I just think that's just an adorable bunny. That's just that's a picture that just brings a smile on my face. And so kind of moving on to a cartoon. I love this cartoon. And basically the point is that many are still feeling anxious. And so look at the cartoon, you can see that there's a guy and a gal that are talking, having coffee together. And you see the gentleman talking here. He says, at least having anxiety made me feel special. Now everybody has it, right? And that's kind of where we're at. We've all had anxiety this year at one point or another and at different intensities. And for many, returning to school just brings a new anxiety. Now we got to learn new habits and now face new challenges. And we're all in the same boat. And so let's keep it real with each other as we move on in this presentation. And we're going to do so by this next activity. So we've had some poll activities, and now we're going to have a self-reflection activity, like I told you about earlier, like we would have. And so here's some questions for you to reflect on and think about, answer in your head, answer out loud, or write these down. When you are stressed at work or at home, or because you're working at home because of the pandemic, what do you start doing in response to the stress and anxiety? Answer that question to yourself. And by the way, if you don't know what that is, hey, just ask your dog or ask your cat. Well, although your cat doesn't care. Bet your family could tell you. Now that you have that answered, what do you stop doing when you experience stress and anxiety? The last bullet, the last question, we all have an emotional gas tank. And oftentimes, we start the day, I hope that it's full, but let's face it, sometimes we wake up and the emotional gas tank is only half filled or a quarter filled, right? And we start going through the day, and as the day goes on, we start burning the emotions, the happiness, the joy starts getting burned, right? And then pretty soon, we're on empty, and now we're on empty, and kind of unpleasant and grouchy and not happy people. What tends to fill your emotional gas tank? How would you answer that for yourself? You know what burns it off. Now I'm asking you, how can you refill it? Answer that question for yourself. Well, thank you for your participation at this point. Already, we've asked you to just dive right in and wrestle with these things. Now, Yoonji has some really cool things to share and a really cool activity. So I'm going to give it over to her to take it away.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, so in order to have a balanced life, we need to start setting healthy boundaries for ourselves. So let's talk about boundaries. What are they? They're separateness that we create for ourselves and others. So boundary is an invisible personal property line that sets limitation in order to have healthy relationships. Personally, when I think about boundaries, I think about when to say yes or no. So when we look at the image on the right side, we see that we have autonomy within ourselves, and outside we have responsibilities. To name a few, work demands, family needs, and maybe financial obligations, and so on. So setting healthy boundaries help us to care for ourselves, be generous with others, and know your limitations, which ultimately lead to having healthier relationships. So for example, for me, I don't like to disappoint people. So when people ask me to do things for them or help them out, I like to say yes. But like what Tom was mentioning, like everyone else, I have 24 hours a day. So me saying yes to everyone else ends up being saying no to my own needs. And you can see that it can cause unnecessary stress. So having clear boundaries is essential to a healthy, balanced lifestyle. It's key to remember that it's okay to have boundaries. Let me say that again so it sinks into you. It's okay to have boundaries because it's harmful to deny of your own needs. And setting appropriate boundaries is essential to having a healthy, balanced life. And next slide would be, okay. So this slide is going to be a pencil and paper activity. It's called What is on Your Plate? So like Tom was mentioning about paper plate, step one, if you have a paper plate at home, that's great. If not, you can follow along with drawing a big circle that takes up most of your paper. And on the side, you can list or think in your mind of the activities or responsibility that are solely yours. It could be something of or work. And you're gonna just circle into accordingly to the amount of time that you spend. Now we can see the visual there. It's an example of my paper plate. And you see work, home, responsibilities, and some playtime, and so on. And now we can see the visual of how much we spend doing different responsibilities and activities. And step 2, it says add labels to the items that you have listed on your plate. So first label is going to be a check mark, which indicates the activities that energizes you. And the next is going to be a smiley face for activities that you enjoy the most. And for a clock, it's the activities that you take up most time. And for a star, activities that you would like to spend more time. And lastly, you could put the word goals for those activities that you would like to contribute for long-term goals. All right, so for the next slide, we'll give you a few seconds. All right, self-reflection. I love this because it allows to look back and self-assess and how things are going and what are some new findings in our lives so we know what to do. So going back to our paper plate activity, let's reflect on these questions for a moment. So the first question, it says, what on your plate surprised you? For me, I was surprised to see the visual as overall and how much I spend time in each activity. Also seeing some imbalance in my life with different labels. That was very surprising, which leads to our next question. What areas of balance or imbalance do you see? For my personal example, I see that I'm not spending too much time, or I should say enough time, with the responsibilities that contributes to my long-term goals. That was very surprising, eye-opening for me. So for this reason, I humbly suggest that you try some of these activities at home because it wasn't enough time for you to do everything. And spend time with you and spend time with yourself and be honest and ask yourself these questions. And thank you for answering all these tough questions. So we want to give you baby goats. They make me really happy. And these little creatures running around, they're just so cute. So thank you for answering them. And I hope they give you joy as much as it did for me. Okay. So next is, like many other things in life, starting to set boundaries and create space for self-care can be a daunting task. And it can be overwhelming thinking of ideas like, where do I start? How do I do this? This is like trying anything new can be overwhelming. So where do we start? On the left is the image of self-care wheel, and it can be used as a tool for managing stress and achieving happiness. And just in case you want to print this off form, it's going to be under Parent University Resources folder. So maybe you can print it out and have it on your fridge where you can easily see it. And this self-care wheel shows that we have different domains, 6 to be exact, physical, physiological, emotional, spiritual, personal, professional. Basically that we have needs that fulfills each domain. And for me, let's see, when you see under the physical domain, I know, sorry about the writing's pretty small, but when we zoom in under physical domain, you see the list of things that you can do. Eat healthy, exercise, get enough sleep, maybe take a walk, and etc. So this self-care wheel can be used as a guidance or a reminder. So let me ask you this question. Let's see. What life domain do you need to give more attention to help you feel more balanced? For me, it was good to do a self-assessment. And so I'm aware, and you can get new ideas to practice effective self-care by circling things that maybe you're already practicing or you would like to do more. And now, Teresa is going to present on practical self-care strategies and creating self-care plans.
Thank you, Thank you, Yunji. One second. So these are some strategies. I know we've gone over, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of thinking, right? So now what can we do? What are some activities, some strategies we can put into practice just to help put our nervous system to rest, right? Because when we're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, our nervous system is overworking. So what can we do to put our nervous system to rest? There's some strategies for you. Create a happy jar. Write down things that make you happy. And when you're feeling, you're having those moments when you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, you can go into the jar, pull one of them out, and it might be a quote that inspires you and encourages you, or an activity that makes you happy. You can pull out and do it right then in the moment. Listen to Pandora's comedy station, right? That's something that I know my coworker Tom and I really enjoy. Is we love comedy. Laughing makes us feel better. Practice gratitude. We're going to go a little over that in a little bit. But one thing we can do together right now is hand breathing, right? Simple as just taking the time to breathe and take a deep breath. It really helps calm us down and relax us and makes us feel better overall. So an example here is called trace all five fingers. It's a hand breathing. So you literally just trace your hands. So I'm going to do it with you right now. You can do it at home. You can follow along. So what this does, you're going to trace the outline of your hand. And when you're on the outside of your hand, you're going to inhale or breathe in, And when you're on the inside of your hand, on the inside of your hand, you're going to breathe out. So you're going to exhale. Ready? So we're going to do it together. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. So you can complete that by tracing all of your hand. I'm doing it a little bit shorter right now for time purposes, but this is something you can do at home with your family when you're feeling overwhelmed. And right now I already feel a little more calm. So just simple as taking a deep breath, taking the time for yourself to do that. Next thing is let peacefulness surround you, right? So does your desk look like that? What about maybe your home, your workspace, your own personal space? So it has proven that that when clutter surrounds us, that adds a little more layer of stress and overwhelms us in general. It adds more to us, right? So when we have a clear space, a clear area, it helps us have more of a clear mind to think properly, to function properly. So it's important that you keep organization as part of your daily routine, just to help you feel at ease and not add another layer to your stress. And this is a picture here. It's from Stanford Medicine. It's called a body scan. So what this graphic shows is description of how the body scan focuses on physical sensations and also how it's connected to our emotional sensations, right? So being self-aware. So this is bringing self-awareness to anytime there is an emotional experience, our body is going to react to that. So it's being aware of where you hold your stress or where you carry your, when you're feeling overwhelmed. So for me personally, I know when I'm overwhelmed and I know I haven't practiced self-care because I will feel it in my neck and the tension in my shoulders. So what happened that day that caused that tension, right? So this is just to remind you to become more aware of what your body is telling you and to become more aware of what happened during the day that caused for those feelings to feel in your body, right? So make sure that you take the time to become more aware and pay attention to what your body is saying. The next one is gratitude. So this one's actually it's a very important part of my work that I do with students. Every time I have a session with students where we do individual counseling, I like to start with gratitude. Experts say that when you practice gratitude, it improves physical and as well as mental health, right? It enhances positive feelings. It can improve your self-esteem, your overall attitude, right? It'll make us happier people in general. So usually with my students, I like to start, before we get started, I always say that give me 3 things you are grateful for at the moment, because we all have so many things to be grateful for. And I like to just focus on the positives, right, in our lives, and the positive feelings and the positive things that are surrounding us. And I want to increase empathy and optimism in my students. So right now, we can all just take a time right there where you're at, just write down quickly 3 things you're grateful for this very moment. I know for me, I am grateful for coffee. I really enjoy drinking coffee. It brings me joy, right? So I'm grateful for something simple like coffee. I'm grateful for my wonderful bed because I get to lay on it tonight and rest and get that sleep that makes me even happier. And I'm also very grateful for a great support system, right? I have a great support system of friends and coworkers that help me through the tough times. So what are 3 things you're grateful for? Write them down in your piece of paper in front of you. We also wanted to provide, we mentioned the resource folder, and there is a self-care toolkit, and it helps you create a self-care plan. It goes into more details. I know this is we're kind of we're going over it quickly, but there you will have access of how to create a self-care plan for yourself. And here you also have a website that I attended a self-care presentation provided by the LA County Office of Education. And there they gave us a link where we all have access to a virtual calming room. And you have so many things you can do. Go on there and find out, things that make you happy, make you laugh. And just overall is there to help us be calm and bring us in the state of being present and being clear-minded. So that's there for you to access as well. And we also wanted to remind you of all the different self-care apps that you can download for your phone. These are most of them are free, but there are some paid ones, but we wanted to give you a variety that these are available for you to download to your personal phone to practice whatever works for you, because there's different apps for different purposes. So this is when we wanted to give you a list as well that you can download for your own personal cell phone and be more aware of self-care. And for us as a family resource center, I know this is something we created and we take pride in because I think it's been very good for our district and our families. Every week we have what's called a You Matter newsletter, and there we provide coping skills, little funny moments, mindfulness reminders, and some type of brain break. And you can find this and also our self-care calendar, which we create every month as well. And it's there for you to access. If you follow us on Instagram, it's another way. Our handle is at LBUSD FRC. There you can, the link in our bio, you can access all of these forms every week, every time they're uploaded, every time there's something new. They're there for you to access and just be reminded, right, of the good things and the different skills that we can practice to make our life easier and ourselves feel better. And the self-care bucket list, right? So this is something that, we've all created, my coworkers and I. And this is, with the pandemic, there was a lot of changes. We had to create things that change up our routines, right? Because, things were shut down, and what can we do now to make us feel better about ourselves? So we created what is a self-care bucket list. So a bucket list is things a person hopes to do sometime, right? So frequently they are wishful, a dream They're not goals because goals require an action plan. So not asking you to commit to anything without evaluating whether it's possible to, it is possible, right? And it's achievable. So write down your self-care bucket list items. For me, for example, I, take a walk by the beach because I was actually really physically active before the pandemic, and then everything shut down. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make it a goal of mine to go to the beach, cook a new recipe. I really enjoy cooking. It makes me happy. It actually, helps relax me, organize my workspace, watch a Disney movie, right? Simple as watching the Disney movie. It makes me happy. And so that's where the things that were on my bucket list. So now we're going to give you an opportunity for you to start thinking about what will you want to put on your bucket list. So write down some ideas of self-care strategies on your bucket list. And imagine if you were asleep tonight and the self-care fairy godmother visited you and sprinkled self-care pixie dust that made one bucket list item alive in your life. Describe what would be different and what would it look like. So you can think that to yourself or write it down as we continue our presentation. So this is just an example of us doing something different, right? Tom, when the pandemic hit, he was, he's a very physically active person. He was rock climbing, right? And the rock climbing gym that he was attending closed down. So what he decided to do, he took up horseback riding with his daughter. And that's something that he added, and it helped him be physically active, something different out of the norm. For me, I started taking walks around my community, which I normally didn't do. And for Yunji, she took up surfing and learning how to surf. So this is us doing something different to help add to our self-care. So now it's self-reflection time. So what would you do different to increase your self-care? So this is a quote that we all really like, and it really makes you think, right? So if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. So sometimes we need to step out of our own comfort zone and do something different because what we've been doing hasn't been working. So what are you going to do that's going to be different to change your outcome? So you are the plate. Remember, you are the plate. So reflect on your self-care bucket list. And on your plate, include a space for one bucket list item that you want to try out, whether it's cooking a new recipe, whether it's taking a walk by the beach or going somewhere new, or reading a book, watching a funny movie, listening to comedy. What would you add to your bucket list? And because you worked so hard, and I know this has been a lot of information, a lot of self-reflection, we wanted to give you some baby otters. So thank you for participating. I know it's a lot, to take the time for yourself, but you're doing it. So we appreciate you. We want to thank you for wanting to better your mood. And we hope we were a support to you and you got something great out of this presentation. If there are any questions, now I'm gonna hand it over to Rebecca. If there are any questions in the document.
Hi, Teresa and Thomas and Yunji. Hi, team. We do only have one question. I think you guys were so thorough and so relaxing and gave so many tips. We just have one question. So we do have a parent out there who asked, how can I say no to a family member? Even if it's a small or simple task, but when you're tired and you just want a breather, how can you say no? Any tips?
Well, that's a great question because, it's hard to say no to family, right? Is we want to be helpful and we want to show them we love them and value them. But, one thing we can do is we can not say no. We can say, well, not right now. Like if it's during a time that we just need to fill up our emotional gas tank before we take something else on, we can say, hey, in 5 minutes, yeah, sure, I can help you then. So maybe we can kind of set a time, to do that, or give them alternatives. Like, hey, I'm not available right now, but I wonder if so-and-so can help you. And so those are a couple strategies that you could consider. Or you can also just be very upfront and say, hey, listen, I'm on empty right now. I am no good to anyone. You really need to find somebody else because I can't be there for you.
Those are all three good tips. I know learning to say no is a skill. It's a good skill to learn, and it's something I know we all have to learn a little bit better.
And just remember, you're not just saying no to say no. You're saying no to take care of yourself. To fill up your tank so that you can help somebody else. That's the bottom line.
Good tips, and I loved the pictures of you three and your activities. That was awesome. I'm looking at our form here, and I'm not seeing any more questions coming through. So I think that's a good sign and a good place for us to kind of wrap it up here. Again, thank you to our team members at the Family Resource Centers. To our parents out there, they gave you lots of good tips, but they also give you ways where you can access more support. So if you're looking for more supports at our school sites or in our community, definitely start with our Family Resource Centers. We have lots of great people and resources available there. So to the three of you, Thomas, Teresa, and Yunji, thank you so much for being with us here today. I learned a lot. I had an hour of self-care for myself today, so thanks for doing that. To our media services team, thank you for helping us get this out to our families, and we look forward to seeing you next week with some more trips from our Family Resource Center counselor. So thanks, and have a great afternoon, everybody.